Hello, 8th graders. This is Teacher Krishna, and welcome to our science class for week number 17. Thank you again for coming to my online class and, of course, for completing the assignments that you will have today. Before we start, get your physical or digital book, enter to the Google Classroom, download your Word documents, and save it in your science folder as it is specified right below. As we move, remember that it is extremely important for you to take notes on the most important things from this document so you can keep track of the most essential things of the video and presentation. It's always necessary to start with our end in mind. And today we are going to be studying review and assessment pages 108 to 110. And our end in mind for today is the following. Students will be able to explain and apply the information learned in chapter 3. So it's something very simple. And we're going to start discussing the answers for the first questions that we have in the review and assessment from the book. So you can keep track of them and remember to study them because after a while you are going to have to take an online evaluation related to this. So, and we have lesson number 1, the air around you. Number 1, which gas forms less than 1% of the atmosphere, but is essential to life? So the one that is essential to life will be carbon dioxide. Remember that it is extremely important because plants are going to feed from it, and after they use carbon dioxide, sunlight, and water, they are going to produce oxygen. And oxygen is crucial for humans and other animals to breathe. And of course, it's extremely necessary for us to live. Number 2, weather occurs in Earth's troposphere, which is the layer of the atmosphere closest to Earth's surface. Yeah, that is something that we studied when we learned about the layers of the atmosphere. Remember that the troposphere is very changing because it can have a lot of variations, just like I explained you in a previous video. Here in Guatemala, we have a lot of variations in the weather. So we can have a cold weather as well as foggy in Quetzaltenango, but it can be pretty warm and rainy in other places such as Retaluleo or Petén. Number 3, draw conclusions. Why is it difficult to include water vapor in a graph of the percentages of various gases in the atmosphere? How could you solve the problem? So, the amount of water vapor in the atmosphere varies by both place and time, by adding time or place as variables. So, notice that one more time. We are going to be finding different amounts of water depending on what region we are at. So, if we are at the ocean, where the portions of water are great and greatly big, so of course, in that part specifically of the atmosphere, we are going to find way more water. But if we are, let's suppose, in San Marcos or in Retaloleo, where there are no beaches, or where there are beaches and not, then we will find different amounts of water in both places. Lesson number 2, air pressure. Number 4, when density increases the number of molecules in a volume, it increases, of course. Okay. Number 5, one force affecting an object is air pressure, which is the force pushing on an area or surface. Remember that we mentioned that even though we cannot see it, air is constantly applying pressure to our bodies. And the higher we are, the less amount of air that there is in the atmosphere, and of course, the less heavy it becomes. Number 6, apply concepts. Why can an aneroid barometer measure elevation as well as air pressure? So air pressure decreases with altitude. Remember that our barometer is very helpful because it usually includes mercurium. And with the mercury that it includes in there, it helps us to measure the air pressure, of course. Number 7. Suppose you are on a hot air balloon flight. Describe how air pressure and the amount of oxygen will change during your trip. What will the changes feel like? This is something that we discussed as well in another one of our videos. Remember that when you started the trip in the hot air balloon, you are going to feel pretty much normal because at this altitude, specifically close to the ground, there is a lot of oxygen in that specific part. So you will have no difficulty to breathe. But once you start going up, what is going to happen is that air pressure and the amount of oxygen that you are going to find around you is going to be littler. So you are going to feel that you cannot breathe appropriately. And you will feel probably a pressure in your lungs as well because you will try to breathe harder in order to absorb more oxygen from around you. Okay, let's continue. We have number 8. The layers of the atmosphere are classified according to the changes in temperature. Remember that we analyzed the altitude in each one of them, but the most important things that classify them is temperature. We have number 9, sequence. List the layers of the atmosphere in order, moving up from Earth's surface. Okay, so this is basically the order of the layers. We have at first troposphere, we continue with the stratosphere, the third one will be mesosphere, and the last one will be the thermosphere. Pretty simple. Number 10, the ozone layer is important because it protects Earth from ultraviolet radiation. Remember that ultraviolet radiation is the one that can cause sunburn and that can even cause cancer in your skin. That is why this layer is extremely important, not only for Earth, but for all humans and animals around. Number 11, infer. Why are clouds at the top of the troposphere made of ice crystals rather than drops of water? Well, the temperatures are very cold, around minus 60 degrees Celsius. We talked about the freezing point of water, and if we specifically talk about Celsius, remember that water starts to freeze when it reaches a temperature of 0 Celsius. So if at the top of the troposphere we have a temperature of minus 60 degrees Celsius, it's logical that it's not going to be water, but of course it is going to form ice crystals. Number 12. Compare and contrast. How are the upper and lower parts of the stratosphere different? This is pretty interesting. The upper part is warmer than the lower part, and a layer of ozone is between the two. This layer absorbs ultraviolet radiation. That is pretty clear right there. Let's go to number 13, calculate. The table shows the temperature at various altitudes above Omaha, Nebraska on a January day. Suppose an airplane was 6.8 kilometers above Omaha. What is the approximate temperature at this height? So, based on the information that we have right there, on the altitude and of course in the temperature, remember that it is mentioning that it is at an altitude of 6.8, so we can infer that the temperature will be around minus 36 degrees Celsius. Alright, and I'm going to help you with some last questions right here. In lesson 4, energy in Earth's atmosphere. Number 14. How does most of the energy from the sun travel to Earth's surface? Well, just like we studied, it travels through radiation. And of course, through electromagnetic waves. Number 15. What are 3 forms of radiation that come from the sun? Ultraviolet, infrared, and visible. Those ones we studied them as well in another video. Number 16. Relate cause and effect. Why do people need to wear sunscreen at the beach? Well, people need to use sunscreen to protect themselves from ultraviolet radiation, which can cause sunburn. Pretty much what I mentioned before. And if you are not careful enough and you expose yourself to way too much radiation from the sun, then it can generate cancer in your skin. So we have to be very careful with that. Right, so what is the evaluation that you're having today? Complete the rest of the questions in pages 108 to 110. I gave you more than half of the questions that you have to solve. So reread the parts from previous topics and of course complete them in a Word document. You can copy and paste the images that you have in my PowerPoint presentation. So you have the answers for the first ones, okay? And study your answers, of course, and then follow the link shared by the teacher to complete the online evaluation. So in the homework section in Google Classroom, I posted already a link to the evaluation. So make sure to study it so you can have a good grade in there. And good luck, guys. So with that being said, we finished the class for today and I will be seeing you next week. Bye-bye.